Jimmy Lewis, and this is Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, the dirt bike podcast where we talk about motorcycle and motorcycle-related products. For Tech Talk Taco Tuesday number 34, we had a special guest, and this was Gabe from Torture Test Magazine, and he basically sits in and talks about his bike thrashing, which you really got to hear. I try to sell him on work suspension, probably doesn't work. I try to tell him how new bikes are awesome. I don't think it works. And he tells me about KTM tiers, which I'm kind of confused about still. This show is brought to you by Climb. Has been with this show since the beginning, and I really appreciate that. What I like even better is that the gear is super awesome. I've been wearing it since the beginning. It's evolved a bunch. It's very durable, really good fitting. They have features on their gear that are pretty much industry leading, and I appreciate that because that's what I wear when I get to do fun stuff, and I'm comfortable, and I like almost everything that they make. So if you are looking for a change of gear or you're looking for the best gear, I think you won't be disappointed by trying Climb. So give them a look. Along with DDC Racing, that's Delaney Drive Components. They're makers of very strong, durable, chromoly, chrome-plated sprockets. If you've seen these things, they look like Swiss cheese. They're super light for a steel sprocket. They last forever. They come with a 1-year warranty, and they are built by riders who really care about keeping riding areas open. So if you're interested in some good drive systems parts, check out ddcracing.net. That's Delaney Drive Components. And Taco Moto. So you've heard us talk about Taco Mike on the show. He's been a guest host a few times. Taco Moto Co., that's how you find him on the web, sells a lot of the kind of cool and unique tuning products that you need to get your emissions-compliant bike running up to snuff. So if you have questions, he has answers, and he can also sell you the stuff. So if we can't answer the question here, which we hope we can, maybe he can answer the question over there, and he can also sell you the parts that you might need to get your especially KTM or Husky dual sport bike running like a champ. Anyways, it's tacomoto.co. Now, here's the show. Live from Pahrump, Nevada, where you can hear dirt bikes ripping up and down the streets all the time. Valley of the Dirt People. I'm Jimmy Lewis. I'm sitting here with Gabe, and your last name is?
Chroust.
Chroust. Okay, I was curious about the pronunciation of that. So, Gabe, you might know I've talked about his little project, Torture Test Magazine, before on this podcast, and I reached out to him because I was kind of fascinated by what he did, which is ride a dirt bike to its destruction. And the interesting thing he told me when we were just talking about it is he said, somebody told me I couldn't do that. And so that's what made him do it. And I was pretty fascinated, like I said, by the whole thing, kind of followed it through whatever internet channel or however I found it. I don't know exactly how I came across it. And and then you managed to produce it into like a magazine contented, like a flip book sort of deal. Yeah. I bought that and looked at it, and then I got to really see what you were doing. Having the oil checked, oil analysis, which I thought was going above and beyond just thrashing a motorcycle
on way too long of an oil change interval.
Yeah, and we just had Chris Real, who was a petroleum engineer, talking about it, and we you hear all the arguments about oil all the time, and so we kind of talked a little bit about that. And we kind of came to the conclusion that's the first step is to have oil in your motorcycle, right? Yeah. And you've seen that you can run it way longer than prescribed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with some data and stuff, and I'm not super familiar with those tests. I should have brought it up with Chris actually, because he's an expert at that. But to see if those tests are showing us what we need to see on motorcycle side.
I'd like to hear that too, because I don't know.
I know from a diesel truck standpoint, those are the tests that they determine your engine health by.
Okay.
They really
they can see particulates of certain things. They go, okay, you're going to lose a head gasket, or you're going to do this, and you've got coolant going in the motor, et cetera, et cetera. There's bearing inside of your oil now.
Mm-hmm. And I just had an oil analysis that proved what was happening on my 230. So I already toasted my 230. We talked a couple weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, I'm about to start riding this 230 all over the place.
Right.
Today, it's no longer.
Oh, but, so now you have two defunct bikes.
Oh, every single bike in my garage is now dead, which sucks. But so anyway, the 230, the valve clearance was opening up, and it's the 2-valve. It's got the rockers, single cam. Valve clearances was opening up, and then I did an oil analysis, and it showed that there was a ton of nickel in there. And then I Googled that, and it turns out, so when you get a refurbished cam for a 230, it comes from Webb camshafts, and they use a nickel hard weld. And I'm like, there it is. I don't even have to look inside it. We know that cam is toast. So, yeah.
It goes down the thing. So our format here on Tech Talk is to answer motorcycle and motorcycle product-related questions generated by you, the viewer. We get our questions from posts that you guys put on last week's, or we actually took a couple weeks off. So it would have been a couple weeks ago's podcast. Some of the comments on the YouTube videos, on the different YouTube things that we do. So we will kind of, run through some of those questions. We have Gabe over there taking calls. If you're interested in calling in and asking a question, we're going to get one of our test riders of the 2020 Honda CR450 RX, Ryan Nitzen, will call in a little bit later on the show. Our number, I know you're writing this down, right? 775-451-3328. That is 775-451-3DBT. Yeah, we got that number. So feel free to call in. Gabe will screen you. If you're horrible, he won't put you through. If you have a good question, he may put you through. We'll see how it all works. So what other stuff do we have on the? I've been out on Rebel Rally, which is a four-wheeled event. It's an all-women's off-road navigation event from Lake Tahoe down to San Diego. So that's where I've been the last couple of weeks. But I did get to ride mostly in the sand dunes. And if you want to talk, and I know Gabe sitting next to me wants to talk about how KTMs make you a better rider.
Yes, please.
I'm going to tell you how a KTM makes me a better rider later on. If we start talking about me riding the KTM 500 I was riding when we were doing this Rebel Rally. I set up the checkpoints and kind of monitor the course and things like that. So we'll get kind of into that. I'm looking at the room. We've got our regulars. Victor's in there. Victor, the popsicle man, and he says sauerkrauts. I don't know what that means. That's kind of interesting word coming from our Mexican popsicle dude. Let's see. And Chris Smith, he's trying to get that top fan status by saying we are one of the best YouTube channels. Thank you, Chris. That's nice. Mitch joined, but usually Mitch is sitting over here, giving me the cut it thing when I start going off on a tangent, but he's not here tonight. And then so we have some of the stuff. How did those Rolls-Royce do on the Rebel Rally? Actually, the Rolls-Royce won the crossover class, the production crossover class. So, which it's pretty amazing. I was on the Rebel Rally's live feed, and we were at the sand dunes, and Rolls-Royce goes flying by in the background. Something you just don't see every day. Let's see. Yeah, George answered that question. George was also on the Rebel Rally helping out. So I'm going to dive right into the questions. You know what? I'm going to ask you these questions. That's how you're going to, that's how we get started straight. Todd Kelly asks, I've been setting up a 09 WR450F for light adventure riding and camping off the bike with minimal pavement sections. People have mentioned fitting a Cush Drive rear hub, but I don't see the necessity of it. Can you talk a little about Cush Drive setups? Can you talk about Cush Drive setups?
Possibly. I don't. So
you don't have to be an expert.
I'm not going to talk out my ass.
I just play one on a podcast.
Okay. So I don't know. I've seen transmissions get all sorts of jacked up from like lots of road miles on just a dirt bike transmission. My buddy has a DRZ 400 that now has a nice like big neutral between every gear. I don't know if that causes that, but that bike goes on the road. So
that's usually bent shift forks is when it does go in. But so the funny thing about the Cush drives is generally inside of the transmission on all motorcycles, someplace in there they're going to put a Cush in there. There's dampers on the back of the clutch. There's springs on the back of the clutch. The current KTMs have these little rubber dampers, and they're a lot of times they're trying to make them smaller and smaller. And I remember when KTM came out with the first RFS 4-strokes. I got to get rid of this cough. When they came out with the first RFS 4-strokes, there was no damping anywhere inside of that motor, and that's why they said it was kind of not really a dual sport bike. And at the time, they had LC4s, which did have Cush drive dampers. So they took it out of the motor and put it onto the hub. So it really depends on what's inside of the motor. If you have something in there that can take that shock out of it, you don't necessarily need to double up on it by putting it onto the hub as well. So it sort of depends. The WR450F, I'm like 90% sure that on the back of the clutch basket there are springs. So for light dual sport use, you're not gonna need that. And what you start to see when they don't have that is like it actually galls the teeth on the gears. You actually kind of see where the two teeth kind of mesh together. Okay. That's where the Cush, if you have just a solid transmission, you're running it on, with 100% traction, is kind of what the Cush, takes some of that thing, some of that force away from. That's what I've seen. But think about like a lot of street bikes don't have Cush drive. They just design it into the motor. But you look at how small some of the motors, the dirt bike motors are. That's what it is. If you wanted to be extra safe, it probably wouldn't hurt. I can't really feel them when I'm riding. I have my KTM 950s and 1090s. They all have Cush drives on them. So. Yeah, hopefully that answered that question. Leo asks about the Honda CR450X. He says, great review. I have a 2013 CR450X with similar mods to the one that we tested. Couldn't help but on the new 450X, the long front brake cable. He put some question marks. I'm guessing Honda must know that a lot of tall riders like myself raise the bars, then position the throttle cables like KTM does on all their bikes. Unfortunately, here in BC, Canada, we don't get the new CR450X. Well, you Canadians are getting screwed, right? It's if you would crawl out of the caves and with the little beady eyes and raise a stink, but you're so nice, you don't do that. You go down to your Honda dealer and raise a stink about it, or just import one from the U.S. But back to the cable question. Probably the reason for the long front brake cable is it's exactly the front brake cables off of another bike, and it's one less part number in the catalog. That's my guess, and I'm going to guess I'm 70-80% right when I say that. So I don't think it's for the ability to raise bars or stuff like that, but it does make it nice. And Jerry Bernardo is texting me or coming across my screen asking me if I got the fuck you stickers. I have this one right here. It's on the front of the thing. But no, I did not get that sticker sheet. Jay Grady asks, Jimmy, the big question, is it worth selling a well set up Gen 1 450X for the new one? Well, Bob's over here shaking his head. Yes.
It's that good.
I like the new bike. Well, considering the old bike was 8 years old or something. I mean, I actually 2004. It's more
2004 through 2017.
Yeah. So how many? I try not to do math in this podcast, that much of it, so it's quite old.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably, if you have a well set up one, going to the new one, it's like a different flavor. It's a slightly different character. I'm not going to say that it's not a better bike. I know some racers who really, really like their older bike quite a bit, but it's just a character thing. They have certain characteristics. The old bike feels heavier, more planted, more stable. The new one feels lighter, more agile, more peppy. So it's a character thing. And if you were gonna, if you're really happy with your old bike, you're just kind of coming into the future. You're moving along with the trend where everything is going, and this kind of can get me back to talking about my riding the KTM 500, because I was riding it in Red Mountain, where we used to do all these desert races, and I remember racing my old bikes through there, and I remember what I would have to slow down for, and the whoops have gotten bigger out there, and the bumps I was hitting were just as big as ever, and I was blown away by how good the new bikes are. In fact, I was riding my KTM 500 with a big giant tank on it and saddlebags on the side of it faster than I was riding my old KTM 250 1992 or 3 KTM 250. It was a DXC at the time. Actually, I rode the EXC, but it had the DXC sticker on it. But that, the fact that a non-race bike is now going way faster than a race bike, and the suspension is so good, and the throttle response is just incredible because of fuel injection and all this stuff. I'm wondering, why can I go through these bumps feeling so much better than I could back in the day? And that's kind of where it is. So when you ride the old one, you may not feel as comfortable on the new one, on the 450X in the beginning, but I think you'll start appreciating some of the stuff, especially the kind of the handling characteristics and just the way the bike feels, like I said, lighter and more agile. You need to find that out.
I definitely need to try one of these out.
We need to put you on a 250 RX.
I've ridden a 250 RX.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, 2019.
Okay.
I like it, but I wound it out and topped it out too quick. So
revs too fast.
Gearing, yeah, taller gearing might help, but I don't know. It seemed like it still had like a motocross transmission to me. Is that true?
And it does. RX has motocross transmission, if I'm not mistaken.
All right.
I rode
it in Death Valley back to back with my 250X, and on the 250R I couldn't hit the same speeds on the straights because it was just completely topped out.
Yep, makes sense. I mean, if you just let it rev and let it keep revving and revving, you'd be amazed at how fast it goes. But so that one, I'd have to go look back and look at our comparison. But I know the KTM just smoked them all on top speed. It just did. But they run through the power band. And then, so tell us about your last bike that you just you finished off.
Okay, so the CRF 250X. It's a 2006 that I built to like the most modern 250X spec, and raced it for the entire Glen Helen Triple Crown Endurance Series. So Ironman the 6 hour, Ironman the 10 hour. Did some racing in between the two, and then we just got home from a team race of the 24 hour, and we toasted the bike. It's done.
So where do we find your stuff? Where's the best place to go look for?
Most of my content is YouTube. Yeah. So that's where you can find everything basically. So YouTube, just Torture Test Magazine, but I do also have torturetestmagazine.com. That's just where I host like this merch, and then like you can download the magazine. But the magazine is really just a byproduct of creating that YouTube content, basically.
It's like a collaboration of all the content in one place.
Kinda. It's really just like, it's like the story of the destruction of the bike. And then while I'm destroying that bike, I'm creating a bunch of YouTube videos that are like entertainment. So,
yeah. Well, entertainment and informative. I mean,
there's some information hidden in there.
When I got that's what I was gonna say. When I got that whole magazine thing, and like I started, there were definitely, I thought there was a lot more in it. in the one about the KDX, and then learning about the oil and all the stuff like that. You were saying, well, I'm gonna leave it in here way longer than I should. I shouldn't do this, and that's the whole the whole thing. And in my world, because I work with the manufacturers sometimes when whether we're testing bikes or doing development stuff, and a lot of the questions we get here are like, oh, the Honda CR450 L, you have to replace the piston in 12 hours. I mean, we're both laughing because it's like ridiculous. I mean, I always say that's written by lawyers just to kind of cover, because they're taking essentially a competition motor. And then saying, okay, you can go do what you want to do on it, but we're going to tell you that it was designed for competition, and if it's competition, it needs to be replaced, a lot sooner, at high levels, and I mean, even on a 450 motocross bike, I think the piston is somewhere 15 to 20 hours, I think is what it is in the manual, and I have no problem telling a top pro that's using one of those as a practice bike. 50 hours. You don't even have to think about it for 50 hours. Because they're gonna wear other stuff out just because of how hard they're riding it. And but if you're really hard on the clutch, that's going to be detrimental to everything else. So that could become a problem. And there's certain things. There's reasons why they replace the race motors. They're literally in for one race and out. Kind of a thing. But that for a regular guy, it's not super practical. And then you kind of you went to the level. It's like, I'm just gonna see where this stuff really can go.
Yeah. What if you just almost do no maintenance? What happens then? That's my curiosity right there. And then I put it to the test.
I just couldn't. I just can't do that to the bike. Because I can hear things when they start breaking.
Yeah, you can.
And it's like, you just know. It's like, okay, it's time to fix it. It's time to let that happen. And I've had so few, we'll call catastrophic mechanical failures, or motors that just quit running, unless it was some sort of strange electrical problem or something where it just stopped. But I've not snapped valves off inside of a motor since my 1984 XR 200. That's the RFVC motor, if you will, and then some of my mini bikes. So we got a call, huh, Gabe? Yeah, I will. He wants to talk about suspension. Greg or Craig? Hold on a sec. Oh, wait. let me bring him in here a second here. Okay. It's Craig Hunter, right?
You got it.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to try to boost the level up here. So Craig Hunter, is this the second time he's called? No. First time. Yeah, it's Trevor Hunter's dad. Yeah, Trevor probably made him call. See, somehow they're doing some investigation on how to do a podcast for District 37, and Trevor's asking me like what kind of equipment we're using. I'm the wrong guy to ask. I'm a complete novice at this. But Craig, how can we help you today? What question can your son not answer for you?
Well, he can't answer it because he's part of the issue.
Oh, he's part of the issue.
Well, he's not the issue. This is the question.
Okay.
So all the KTMs, they all come with an air fork, right? And they all come with the stock. What is the white power shock on the thing?
Yep. On the XCs, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And for the average person, they seem to work great. I mean, I have a 2019 KTM 350 XCF, and I think the suspension is phenomenal and it works great for me. I got zero issues. However, you start looking around at the races, all the factory riders, none of them run the stock suspension. They're all running cone valve forks, and they're all running that track rear shock.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I've talked to some people, and you hear mixed feelings. Either way, I've heard pros and cons. I've heard they disconnect that thing on the track, and I've heard the new air forks, they got them working better than the older cone valve forks. But if that's the case, where are the factory teams not running the stock stuff? Two, and so the reason, there's that question. Yeah, so answer that question first.
Because it's something they can sell, and that's what they want the factory bikes to be factory bikes, and you know how psychotic most factory racers are, right? It's all in their head. So if you don't put factory suspension on their factory bike, they're going to feel unfactory. So that's problem number one. And they're the factory stuff. And I've ridden all that stuff, and unless you're really pushing that stuff to 10 tenths, and you as a rider can tell the technician what you want it to do, different, better, worse, because some of that stuff, what they're playing with is like the chassis rigidity. It's not just the suspension going up and down action. Sometimes they're able to achieve better bottoming resistance or a different leverage ratio, and there's so much that goes into it that until a rider could, this is the way I would if I were wanted a rider to have the best suspension, I'd say, what do you want the suspension to do better? And it doesn't just mean put factory suspension on. I know some racers that tape diamond dust underneath their forks, underneath their stickers and their forks, because it makes them better. And I'm not kidding. Because it's special. It's something special. But it's blessed by a doctor and all this other stuff. So, okay, question number 2.
Well, and the reason why I asked that question is, Trevor has been struggling with the suspension, all year, and trying to get it to that next level. He never seems to have gotten that really, really comfortable on that KTM so far versus, as he was on that Yamaha.
Right.
And so, we're like, okay, we've been working on the suspension for a year, and wow, well,
So what does he want it to do? What's his KTM not doing? And comfort, like not being comfortable is like, you can't just go to a suspension tuner and say, hey, I want to feel more comfortable on my bike. Does that mean stiffer, softer?
That would be, I guess that would be, I can't answer that. That would be a question for Trevor. At that point, I'm out of the loop.
Yeah. Well, not going to,
obviously
he's not going to talk to you. You're his dad. He doesn't even call me.
Yeah.
I would tell him he needs to learn how to ride faster, just period.
He just needs to make it happen.
Yeah. So when we start coming at suspension is very personal. And until the rider can tell, or you have somebody that really understands it, watch him ride to figure out what it may or may not be doing right. And it could be something just simple as balance. And what I'll tell you, between a Yamaha and a KTM, the Yamaha feels a lot more stable, and it doesn't feel like it has the kick or the kind of the like when you hit square edges on a KTM, you typically feel it more than a Yamaha. It's just 2 strokes we're talking. So a lot of times, running the KTM back a little bit lower in the rear, just getting, so it squats down a little bit more. And because I've seen, when I watch what he writes about certain bikes when he tests them, I kind of have an idea of what he's feeling, what he likes to feel. And I just remember on something that he wrote, I'm like going, it sounds like the rear end's up too high. It wasn't fixing the problem. But I would start playing around with ride height before I did anything else, and find out if you can kind of come to some conclusions there.
Okay.
Being like I said, being kind of a smaller guy and stuff, a lot of times, but then when you start lower in the rear, then you don't have the travel to handle the bigger bumps. So it's a double-edged sword.
So at the end of the day, all the cone valve forks, the traction shock, all that's the smoke and mirrors at the end of the day.
No, it's not smoke and mirrors until you need something that stuff offers, and until you ask a question that's out of the realm of the stock components to provide. And I don't think that he is, there. I don't think that you couldn't get that stock stuff to work that well. There's certain things that a track shocks does that's different. There's certain things that a cone valve fork does that's different. But until you ask for that specifically, it's kind of a waste. That's my.
All right, question number 2.
I got a question. Question number 2.
Question number 2. I know I'm going into this. I'm going to get annihilated. So when's the next official Jimmy Lewis Invitational trail ride?
The next Jimmy Lewis Invitational trail ride. Well, I put on that King of the Motos race for a few years. I guess you could call that one of those. I quit doing that, so maybe nobody wants to ride with me. I mean, they think they do, but
you can put on some nice trail rides up at your cabin. I've been on one, a few years back, but
I don't know. I don't know anything about I don't know anything about a cabin or anything like that. I go riding at Jawbone Canyon, and if my wife goes, then you're probably safe. But if you just want to go riding with me and Dave Donatoni one day, you're asking for trouble. that's not going to be any fun, I don't think. So yeah, no invitational trail rides. I'm retired from that game, I think. So yeah. All right. Okay, Craig, good talking to you. Tell your kid to turn in more stories. I got to get that Ryan Nitzen kid on the phone. He's got to tell us about the new Honda because he's on the same pace as your son, writing real stories real slow.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, man. Thanks for that. Thanks for the info.
Okay, see ya.
What level of rider were we talking about for that rider?
Trevor is an expert. I believe he was on the team that won the 250 class at the 24-hour.
Oh, nice.
I'm not 100% sure. There's a video up on Dirt Bike Test. I should probably watch it. No, maybe that's from Ridgecrest. Yeah, the video's from Ridgecrest Grand Prix, but he's a top 250 expert.
Nice.
He rides the Big Six Grand Prix. His dad's one of the promoters. That's Craig. He's also in the Prairie Dogs. They do the Last Dog Standing. So Craig is the mad mind behind the Last Dog Standing. So, and the 24 hours. He started the 24 hour.
Wow.
Yeah, I know their club was pretty heavily. Them and Desert MC were pretty heavily involved, and Ron Lawson, of course, and everybody. So
that's cool. Thank you, Craig, for starting that.
Yeah, yeah. Gabe's a big fan. Gabe likes to take his bikes out there, and you destroy his bikes, and it's part of what he does.
It's perfect for what I do.
Let's see. PGI Rad 26 asks, or he doesn't ask. He says, "Great interview on Adventure Rider Radio. I will have to listen to it again." So he's mentioning that I was on another podcast called Adventure Rider Radio talking about balance and also talking about why Trevor can't ride faster because he's out of balance, not only with his suspension, but just in balance in general. But if you search out Adventure Rider Radio, and you can listen to my take on that. By the way, there's a spot open in my class this weekend. One spot only if you want to come out to Nevada. And you can go on a Jimmy Lewis Invitational trail ride, and I will tell you exactly what to do for the entire 2 days of riding. So, on to something with our JD Jetting thing. James how do you say that name? James Miziazek? Yeah. James Miziazek says, the JD Jetting 6X are not waterproofed. It caused me so many problems and caused me to get a DNF on a new KTM TPI. I think he says, they tell you to put it on the side of the frame with the wires up. These are crappy rubber seals that want water in. Do not buy or put in your airbox. Well, James, I have sprayed mine a bunch with pressure washers, and haven't had any problems yet, but I'm not putting them in places where they would get submerged. But I could see that water would cause a problem with an electronic component. It doesn't look sealed up. I haven't read I don't know if the instructions go that deep into whether they are waterproof, but it's good to know. Got something to pay attention to. Sorry you got a DNF. Let's see, on to the KTM 300 TPI. Adam Diamond says, just discovered the channel. I love it. Do you ever plate bikes? And by that he's talking about license plate. I'd love to see your take on dual sporting this thing or a WR450 or a CR450X, etc. I have plated bikes. I do plate some of my personal bikes, but I don't know if I would like to put a plate on a KTM 300 so I could ride it on the small sections of road that I need to so I wouldn't get in trouble. But I wouldn't ever use it as a, quote, dual sport bike. So if you're talking about plating it for that reason, yeah. And it depends on the state you live in. And same with any of the other bikes that you mentioned. It depends on the requirements and what you can get away with because you don't really want a street bike. You want dirt bike that has a license plate on it, which is a good thing. My take on dual sporting would be stick the license plate and the most minimum amount of equipment on a dirt bike as possible, and then you have a license plate. I think Chris Riel talked about it. Do you want a number plate on the front or a number plate on the back? Yes, Gabe. Caller, okay. I see him there. Ryan, I'm going to get to you in a second. I want to run through this other question because I'm going to. Ryan, you better be ready. I want to know why that story isn't done. Wind up the Excusatron right now. Jacob Euphrazio asks on the Recluse clutch. Thanks. I've been riding for a while, but I bought my first 4-stroke, a 450 XCF. It's a beast in the Northeast woods, so I'm debating a Recluse. The Recluse will take up to, but not more than 20% of that beast out. And the more that you ask the Recluse to take out of the bike, the more wear you're going to get on the clutch, because essentially you're allowing it to slip a little bit more. If you can set them up to slip a lot, and it does tame the acceleration and the snap of the bike, but that's not necessarily a good thing. I mean, they'll do it, but what are you doing riding a 450 XCF in the woods if it's a beast? You only make those 350s. That other company, what's that other company called? They make white ones. There's these white ones. They make 350s too. They're pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to go to Ryan on the phones right now. Ryan, are you there?
I'm here.
You're there.
I think if it's working on your end.
It's working on my end. I can hear you. Can you hear him?
Yep.
Okay. You're here with Jimmy and
cool.
Gabe.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Where's the so Ryan Nitzen is a dirt bike test rider, which means along with being a test rider and getting pictures taken, you're supposed to write stories, evaluations of the bikes, and get them onto the internets. And we got a cool story about how you were a factory rider for a day, which is probably pretty awesome.
Correct. And that story, on my computer, that story was like 4 pages long. So that thing should be getting some good views. I actually heard too that it got circulated through the American Honda offices in Torrance on the Tuesday or whatever that we published it. So if you haven't heard that one yet, put that one in your cap. Everybody's over there viewing some
dirt bike tests.
Are you there?
That's good. Yeah. Are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the Honda guys are all reading dirt bike tests. I know we are up on a 450 RX first ride impression.
Right.
We could do some of that tonight if you want.
That's what we're gonna talk about it, and then we're gonna drill down on that. So the biggest question I have is like, what did they change in that bike? What's new on the 2020?
So the 2020 R and the RX are pretty much the same base model. In 19, the bike got an updated frame and swing arm, updated electronics, black wheels, and then all of that transfers over to the RX as well. So the suspension changes for the also got transferred over for 20. It got the updated electronics package, which includes the Honda selectable torque control, which is their version of the traction control.
Yep.
That comes on the R as well, and they brought that over to the RX, which I thought was really cool. I know how sometimes that it usually waits a year or can be a year, that you have to wait for it, not the flagship model. So I was really excited to use that. It has the launch control as well. It's the whole shot assist, the 18-inch rear wheel. I believe I heard you say earlier about the transmission, and I believe the R and the RX are the same transmission and engine all around.
Right. Okay. But different ECU mapping on the RX, correct?
Correct. Different ECU mapping. And then Jason from Honda was telling us that each gear is individually mapped for the R and the RX. So they are different. They feel different, but they are the same motor. Like my manual at home for my R says R and RX. But yes, the ECU maps are different.
Right. So your bike at home is a 19 or 18 450 CR 450?
My personal bike is an 18 CR 450R is my personal bike.
Right. So you're pretty familiar with that bike and that chassis and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And before that, I had a 15 450R. So definitely familiar with the Hondas in the last few years of their changes. But yeah, that's why I was really excited to ride this bike. I haven't ridden the RX before, and I was very surprised and pleased with how easy I was able to just transition over to kind of like the off-road model. I was a little not skeptical, but just kind of like, oh, it's going to be softer and faster and or like have a wider gear ratio.
Yep.
But I was very impressed with the bike,
and
it felt like riding my. Go ahead.
And you're a moto kid. You're a track guy.
Yeah. My Grand Prix experience is very limited, to say the least. I think I'd only done 3 of them before we went up to Ridgecrest to do the Viewfinders Grand Prix. So definitely a little out of water, but made it work. It was definitely a lot of fun.
Yep. A little lack of water or too much water? Or?
Yeah, it was a little interesting to have a mud race. Well, not a mud race, but the morning practice was a little wet.
They got to make that stuff last all day. So.
Yeah, they had a water hole on the first day on Saturday, and then on Sunday it was either empty or dried up. I'm not sure, but yeah, we didn't have the water hole on day 2. But yeah, it was really fun. That whole series, the National Grand Prix series, or what was Big Six, is a lot of fun. Those guys do a great job of having a fun event, a safe event. The course was really fun. The whole thing was just super well ran, and I had a blast. Like the family atmosphere of it was super fun. And then to hang out with the whole JCR Honda crew for the weekend just made it even better. Yeah.
So you got completely spoiled. Brand new bike, brand new tires. They probably fed you. They put gas in it, all that stuff. So what didn't you like about the bike?
What didn't I like? That's a hard one. I think.
Yeah, because they pampered you.
I won't tell you what the amount of money they're paying me to say this, but no, I'm kidding. But yeah, the only thing that I did, something that might be a little more difficult for a rider who's jumping off of like maybe an older 2-stroke or something, is just the amount of buttons that are available for you. Like the whole point, it seems like, of the bikes is to make it easier to ride. You have more options, like with the traction control, with the whole shot control. There's 3 different maps, 3 levels of traction control,
yeah.
and then whole shot assist. So there's 3 different buttons with 6 to 9
maybe
different
9
nine
combos essentially.
Yeah, so that was a little difficult at first. Obviously, with riding some of the newer bikes lately, I've gotten used to that. Like Yamaha has the push button map, KTM and Husky as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, something like that is something that might take a little bit of getting used to.
I'll just jump in here that the Honda one is hard to manipulate, like the 3-second hold, and I think we've complained about that on almost every one of our tests of the bikes with that system. It's just like it's not necessarily on the fly. I mean, you can do it, but you got to slow down to do it.
Well, and if you think about taking your hand off the bar to press the button is a little more difficult than it sounds.
Yeah.
Even like on the KTM, they say, well, you could just reach up in the air and bump it, but looking down to hit the right button is kind of difficult. That was like probably the only thing that I ran into difficulty with. Like Jason from Honda was there with us. He's the media guy, and he rides all the time and understands, he does a lot of the testing. So he helped with, he was riding along with us. So he said, hey, my favorite map is map 1 with traction control 2. So that kind of smooths out the hit a little bit, and then also gives you some of the traction control properties that you would want as well. And that was something, just remembering that was kind of a little difficult. And then on the start, I forgot that I had the whole shot assist on, and on day 1. So when I nailed the throttle on the first day, you know, when you do a start and
Yep.
you kind of don't want the wheel to spin, so you ease on the throttle on the start.
Yep.
I did that and kind of blew it on the start. But on day 2, I remembered I had it on, so I just nailed it, and it did everything. I mean, it did almost everything for me.
Yeah, that
and really helped me get the.
Those
helped me get the start on that one. So.
You've got to practice. You've literally got to practice using those modes. You know, so you know what they are. So you can, especially the start ones, because some of them you just got to pin it and literally drop the clutch and just let it do its thing. And you kind of have to be able to look at the traction and say, hey, with this kind of traction, I should use map 2, or, you know, I think 3 is the most aggressive one, and 3 you would use like in sloppy mud.
Right. And that's where I think it gets confusing with the maps and the traction control, because map 3 on the Honda is the most aggressive map.
Yep.
And then map 3 on the traction control is the most aggressive traction control, meaning that it retards the torque control as much, or that's the most retardation of the traction control of the torque, if that makes sense. So they kind of work in opposite.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that people get confused on, because on day 1, I rode the bike in map 2, which is the smooth map, which is what I run my normal 450 in.
Yep.
And then I used traction control 2, hoping to really like smooth it out on the fast course, kind of make it easier to ride. And I almost made the bike too slow, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So that was definitely something to play around with. And, you know, for an experienced rider with this bike, you're going to have more time to use those things and play with them and find your sweet spot. But yeah, on just day 1, trying to learn it was a little difficult. For day 2, my result was, I felt like I rode better, but I knew the bike a little bit better after that too.
Yeah, and just like Trevor needs to work on his suspension, you need to work on your pushing button pushing on the Honda. so the bike's.
I mean, it is. Go ahead.
The bike's fast though, yeah.
Oh, it's super fast. Yeah, I was very impressed. Like I said, I've ridden my 18 for a couple of years now, and super surprised just coming straight off that to this bike, where in 19 they updated the ECU and everything like that to make it. I mean, I think it was the fastest bike of 2019. Maybe not the most rideable bike of 2019.
I would agree.
Yeah, I think we did a shootout.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was, or not a shootout, a comparison test.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, so for 20, I think it's still that same aggressive power. The ECU changes do help kind of settle that a little bit, along with the available maps. But it is very fast, and it carries. I was surprised at how little I had to shift. This track was super fast, and I was able to leave it in, coming out of a corner, leave it in second, and rev it higher than I had expected, or leave it in third before I had to shift to fourth a lot longer than I had expected, which I liked a lot. Made it riding for 45 minutes, an hour and a half long race easier. Those little changes make a big difference over the course of a race that long.
And
maybe that's not even that long to other guys. I mean, from a moto guy, 20 minutes is a full moto for me.
Yeah, 45 minutes, right?
Yeah, my hands were definitely feeling it even after day 1, the 45-minute race, and then I opted to do the hour and a half long on Sunday.
Right. Well, cool. So you can go on to dirtbiketest.com, read it's the banner story. It's up there right now. You can read about Ryan's riding as a factory rider experience, which is you start out as an intern here, and then next thing you know, we make you a factory rider. It's what you do. You just you have to pay the price of putting fingers to keys and making a story out of it. So that's coming next. I'm sure I'll see it soon, I hope.
We're on it.
We're on. Good. So cool. Well, hey, Ryan, thanks for calling in and telling us about that. And I'm sure everybody's looking forward to that story. Now we need to get you on the X so you have the full CRF spectrum, or maybe
to ride the regular X, and then the 250RX is supposed to have some cool changes as well. So that's really cool to see a brand like that, branching into territory that's kind of uncharted for them, which I think is really good for the industry as a whole.
Yeah, no, I loved our Honda. All the 250 four strokes of that class are so that FX, kind of RX, XC they're so much fun to ride. They're like they're kind of like 125s of the old days for sure. So, well, cool. Thanks for calling in, and we will we'll keep in touch.
Cool. Thanks, Jimmy. Talk to you soon.
Okay, see ya. Okay. We have another caller, Jacob. And Jacob,
hello.
You there?
Yes, sir.
Where are you calling from?
Boise, Idaho.
Boise, Idaho. And you?
Oh, hey, Jacob.
Do we know Jacob?
I know Jacob.
You know Jacob?
He's our cameraman for the 24-hour.
Right on. So what's your question? I'm gonna make Gabe answer this one.
I had a question about two-strokes.
Right.
So I know that emission standards, especially in California, are slowly closing the window on them. So this is a question for both you and Gabe. As that window closes, do you think that's going to allow like a resurgence of the three-stroke motorcycle to come back?
The three-stroke. Well, no, yeah, Well, I'm more into the five-stroke personly.
I haven't heard of those.
Yeah, it's one better than a four-stroke. I mean, nobody's talking about it yet, but I know. Really, it's funny because the two-strokes, the fuel-injected two-strokes are very, very clean, except for during startup. And I think I got into it with Chris Real talking a little bit about it. But once they're running, they're actually very, very clean. And there is some technology out there and some ways that these manufacturers have figured out to kind of basically beat the test on that stuff. And it's not necessarily just California green sticker. It's Euro emission standards. There's all kinds of stuff that, these manufacturers will figure stuff out. And whether a two-stroke will be able to meet it and still meet the performance requirements that we expect out of them, that's honestly the question. I mean, but you can see with the four-stroke bikes what they're doing to get the current like KTM EXCs to run like they do, and then meet this pass the sniffer. And the test, as Chris, it's in the second hour. It's up on YouTube now. It's a Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, Chris Real second hour. Listen to that, and that will tell you a lot about, some of the tests and the standards these bikes have to meet. But the manufacturers are kind of meeting the challenge. But I think that he talked about kind of there is going to be a cutoff, and it has more to do with, and it's not just two strokes. It has to do with competition vehicles, when vehicles can be sold and what they can be used for. And this is starting in California, and God only knows how far it will spread, but that's and in California is such a big portion of the market, it does drive what manufacturers do. So it might be difficult in 5 or 7 years to buy or purchase a competition motorcycle. I mean, you're hard pressed to buy a competition car, and you sure as heck can't drive it on the road. There's just not a market for it. So I think that's I think two strokes will last as long as we keep buying them. Is the truth. It's just where are we going to be allowed to use them is the question. So, yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, they may be able to stand up to the emission test, or they may not be able to pass the manufacturer test these days, but can they pass the torture test?
Well, they seem to be doing well compared to the CRF 250X, that is.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna thrash something, if you're really not gonna pay attention to mechanical stuff, you're probably better off on a two-stroke. But So Jacob, how's that three-stroke how's it gonna help the emissions? The third stroke, what's it gonna do?
Well, hold on. I need to pull up the diagram so I can remember how they work exactly. I drew up this really big fancy Microsoft Paint like professional diagram.
Paste it on the Facebook page.
In the carburetor, can I share that in the chat or something?
Yeah,
Is there a way to do that?
There's a lot of people that
Okay, let me find that real quick. I have it saved in my files somewhere.
Good. Everybody get ready for this if you're in the chat room. And if you're not, you can go back and find it in the chat room. Maybe if you send me a picture of it, I'll post it on the YouTube video somehow. I'll slap it on there. And we'll put your three-stroke drive. But
I have the image pulled up. I'm too stupid when it comes to computers to actually be able to post that in the chat. But I mean, I have it in front of me, and so most cylinders, they have like the spark plug, the intake, the outtake, all that fun stuff, and then they have the piston. But the really unique thing about the 3-stroke cylinder is the fact that they have a flux capacitor actually. And so what happens is that the intake air comes into the cylinder head, and then it just blasts straight around the piston head itself, and then just enters the flux capacitor. And then weird science stuff happens that I can barely understand.
Yeah, you got to be careful. You got to be careful with that because you're going to affect the power band, and the power band is a difficult thing to tune properly. Especially when it's.
Chris, I'm sorry, I don't think you understand. 3-stroke motorcycles, their power band is just infinity.
In power band is infinity. I can't even say it. Yeah. No, it just depends on what the power band's made out of, because the ones in the 3-strokes are usually made out of carbon Kevlar wound bands, and the other ones are like they're chain drives, so it's metal, so it's better that way, right? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, sorry. Okay.
Don't worry.
A
variable cycle 3-stroke engine is a type of internal combustion engine patented by Michael A.V. I don't know. The term 3-stroke indicates that, to quote from the patent, total cycle displacement of the engine equals approximately 3 expansion ratios. So chew on that, Jacob. And I don't
know where he got that.
And where did I get that? There's no mention of the flux capacitor. So, okay, hey, well, feel free to drop the diagram on that, and we'll get back to you. We'll investigate that further because we're all about getting to the truth here.
So,
all right, thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah,
Jacob has a YouTube channel called Jackass ADV. And it is entirely him trolling like that.
Right.
Yeah. So he has a video on how to turn a DR200 into a DRZ400 because he had a DR200, then he sold it to me and bought a DRZ400. And
the DRZ200 is quite possibly one of the worst motorcycles I have ever.
It's surprisingly bad.
I don't know how they could take that motor and make it make so little power. and the worst thing is there's a DRZ 125, a full size.
Even less.
Yeah. It is that
because the 200's just too much.
Hey, yeah, because the 200 too much. You need less. We took one of those. We rode it up to this place up in Death Valley. Out. It was up when you could ride up to Panamint City. We rode dual sport bikes. We called it the last ride to the Lost City, and this is way back when I was at Cycle World. And that bike, we had to push it the whole way. It was so pathetic.
I can imagine. So my latest video was me buying that DR200 and going up to Idaho with those guys, and they were like, "What happens if you enter this in a race?" And there's a race the next day. I'm like, "Let's find out." So I went and raced that in a desert race, and that's my latest video on my YouTube channel. It's called Best DR200 Race Video Ever, and it's part of the KTM Tiers series that I was telling you about.
So tell me about your other YouTube channel. Or is it all on torture? It's on torture test, right? So what's your new one? You call it KTM Tiers.
KTM Tiers.
Yeah.
So I just
let me get to that question because wait, what was that? The question was,
does an orange bike make you faster?
Yeah, it was asked earlier on the thing. Does an orange bike make you faster? And I just said, let me think about it for a second. Yes. Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, why wouldn't it? Right? So, but you seem to take a different approach.
Yeah. So, I just noticed that a lot of people, there's like this KTM club and non-KTM club in this world. And I've run into a lot of people who are like, "Oh, you ride? Like, what do you ride?" And then if it's not a KTM, they're like, "Oh, that's."
Well, people ask me when I go to social things, they say, "So you ride a Harley, right?" So same thing, yeah. So now now we've KTM has jumped the shark, and so now if you ride dirt bikes, it has to be a KTM,
right?
At least off road.
Yeah. And so I had to choose a side basically, and since I'm broke, I chose the non KTM side, and now, yeah. I have actually nothing against KTMs. It's just I had to choose a side, and I didn't have a KTM, so I'm like,
so you went, yeah. So I have no problem with that. I mean, I always say I'm ambidextrous. I just happen to have a lot of KTMs, and if you ask me what is the best motorcycle for me, and I don't know anything about you, I always say KTM 500, because I think that would be the best blanket to throw over that particular question. I'll argue with you right now if you want about like what is a better bike. If we don't know anything about the person asking the question, they want a bike, a motorcycle, a dirt bike-ish dirt bike, and they may want to go adventure riding. They may want to ride around a motocross track, but they don't know anything. Give me a better bike.
I thought you said the KLR 650 was the ultimate all-time bike.
That's the ultimate adventure bike. Yeah, that is the ultimate adventure bike, especially for the guy that's getting into it and doesn't know that. So I paraphrase that, but
You're
we're
not
just
going to take a KLR on the motocross track.
No, and I really wouldn't want to take KTM 500 on the motocross track, but tell me something else that you could ride around the motocross track and actually go around the motocross track at least as good as a DRZ 200.
Ooh, so you're asking the wrong person, because I always just buy the cheapest thing on Craigslist, and I seem to do like the same on every bike that I get. I don't know what's up with
So you're claiming that it's not about the bike.
It's something with the rider, I think.
I can actually put you on better and better bikes, and you will become a less and less skilled rider as you get on better and better bikes to a certain. And I
can imagine. And actually,
and I've seen you riding the videos and stuff. And you're not a bad rider. You're definitely not an expert rider. It's just you're a good rider. But as you, like I said, the bikes do make a difference, but they're like flavors of ice cream these days. They're all so good, and you can pick on KTMs all day, and all you're going to do is get flamed on the internet from all the orange pack that's going to come after you.
Which is what I love doing.
Yeah, but like I do it with Yamahas all the time. I say how much I like a Yamaha, and then everybody hates me, and they say you love Yamahas, and I'm like, no, well, okay, yeah, this week I did, but then the next week I'm all about the Hondas, and I'm frankly, when I start telling people this, I'm honest. It's truthfully, it's exactly what I feel. And the only thing I have kind of coming into that is I have a lot of experience with all the different brands, so I kind of dissect them. But I actually adapt my riding to kind of the bike I'm on, and whether it's, sometimes if the suspension is a certain way, I might ride around certain kinds of bumps as opposed to hit them, or to go as far as like, I know when I have the Honda, I don't want to go do first and second gear trails on the CR450X like I do on the WR450. So I'll like tailor my ride. I'm usually leading the ride, and I'm going to go here. I'll go where that bike works the best. I can point it in the right direction. So there's little things like that. But no, I kind of find it funny when people just get super they hate another brand, or they love another brand, or there's only one brand. There's the good thing is it would really suck if there was only KTMs. It would really be bad.
I couldn't live without my DR200.
Is that do you still have it?
Yeah. So
is it the only running bike in your fleet?
Yeah. Well, no. My XR250 runs, but it's just like the wheels look like octagons, so it's not a pleasant ride.
Yeah.
But yeah, the DR200, it goes.
Cool. Okay, we're going to hit it off with a few other questions here. This one's about a Nitro Moose. Brian C. England asks, are we talking about Moose break-in tonight on Tech Talk Taco Tuesday? Well, guess what? We can. It says, you guys got some thrashing in yet? I mounted a set last week for my buddy racing the Baja 1000 Pro Ironman, and was a tad surprised to see the new color coming out of the box. Yes, the new Nitro Mooses are silver or gray, or some form of silver, gray, and brown ish color. I have just mounted them. I have about 600 miles on the ones I threw in last week, and they are performing pretty much the same as the old ones did. They felt a little soft to me. They felt a little softer initially than the old ones. They didn't require the same. We talk about break-in. They didn't seem like they were starting out at like 14 pounds and instantly going down to 10, or after one or two rides going down to 10. It seems like they started at 12 and they still feel like they're at 12. is my take. And I mounted them inside of Kenda Parker DT tires, and I will get back to you on that if I find anything different. I have another set that's going to go in another set of tires, and I'll let you know. And then Victor, Popsicle Man Victor asks, yes, if you have a choice between an XR400, an XR650R, and an XR600 to do LA B to V, which of these dinosaurs would you choose?
I always go with the lightest thing because I am tiny.
Yeah, so you're going to go with X. Victor, yeah. And you know what? I'm right there with you. Why are you not riding a CR500, brother? Because I know you have one, and I know that is lighter than all those bikes, so we're going to agree that a CR500, wait, that you don't have a license plate on it. We'll go back to the guy who talked about the license plate thing. I would ride the XR650R, no questions asked. That is until I had a KTM 500. that was on my list. Actually, I've kind of been known as like the XR 400 guy for a long time too. So, you know what? The funny thing, you go back to an XR 600R, you're going to go, does this motorcycle even have brakes on it? And you get a test of this. When you ride old stuff, what is the first thing you notice? You don't notice that the brakes don't work?
Yeah, the brakes.
Or they just don't slow. Yeah. That's the first thing when I start riding older stuff. I just notice how bad the brakes are, and whether it's certain amount of lack of not being used, maintenance, that they're not perfectly bled. But the performance of the brakes on the new bikes is so good when I ride older stuff, and especially you get on older stuff that's heavy. Then now we're talking like XR650 for sure qualifies. Well, the 400 too. At least the 400, the brakes kind of slow the bike down. The other two, they're too fast for their own good. So, okay. I'm going to run back to the board here real quick. Let's see. Mike Spurgeon asks, great question, mate. Can I help you with that? It's my specialty. Yoda Jimmy will get you sorted as well. What did Dustin Dag? What was his question? I don't know if I can find it. I'll try to get to that. Paul Thrillkilled. I've got a 19 KTM 350 XCF. Do you think the new engine hangers from the 20 would fit my bike and help make the suspension handle more supple? I don't think the frames are the same. And I might know because Mojave Bob has just dropped off a KTM 350 that he was weighing, and we're going to get the weight. What does it weigh?
Full of fuel, 253.
253 pounds is what a 2020 KTM 350. Oh, wait, he's talking about XCF, not EXC. XCF hangers.
The new motors are shorter.
Yeah, the new motor's smaller. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely a big change. I'm going to do something on Dirt Bike Test about the variations of the last three itinerations of the KTMs, because you look at them and they kind of look the same, but they are largely different. And Bob loved the word that I just used, didn't you? Yeah, he just shot his. You just leave the bike here. I'll shoot photos of it and go ride it tomorrow. Do I think so Paul, if the engine hangers switch between the bikes, the 20 and the 19, they will change the way the bike feels if the hangers are indeed different. But that's something that you kind of have to test. But if it depends on what you're looking for, I was really happy with the 350 XCF, the way it worked. I didn't really find that I had some chassis difficulties, but feel free to drill holes in them. And I'm talking like 2 millimeter holes in the middle of your mount if you want to make it like flex a little bit more and stuff. We've done that before, but before I would do that, honestly, check the torque. Set it to the stock torque settings, and then start backing it off like about 5 to 10% on the torque spec, and see if you can achieve the feel or notice a difference. And if you can't notice the difference when you've gone about 15% less on the torque feeling, you're probably not going to feel what the engine hanger is doing. If you switched it out wholeheartedly, in my opinion, you won't feel it, but you could also spray paint it a different color, and it might do just the same thing. I've seen that happen before. Let's see. Todd Kelly loved the torture test in the KDX 200 videos.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, so I did too. Let's see. Where's some of the other questions we got here? I know there was another one that popped up. Get the bomb slow. The Facebook somehow organizes my things. They're not in order anymore. So I can't tell which was the latest one versus the next one. Bike in question is my 2018 500 KTM EXC, fully desmogged, FMF 4-point slip one, and a Dobek tuner handling the fuel management. I've wanted to upgrade to a Vortex ECU for a while now. However, I am unable to make the purchase. I am now able to make the purchase. However, I'm on the fence between, I got to click, see more, the Vortex or the Athena Get ECU. What are the pros and cons of the units? Do you have a preference in either one? Any personal experience that would lead you to one or the other? Well, guess what? Mike Spurgeon was exactly right when he said contact him. He's the expert on those things as far as I can tell, especially with the EXCs. And he seems pretty honest when he starts steering you in certain directions. I do not have any experience with I used the older Vortex on an older version of the EXC, so I have some experience with that. The biggest difference between what I've been doing a lot with just the JD tuners, which is fuel only, is once you enter into the Vortex and the Get, you can alter ignition timing. Why you would want to do that, it depends on your level of expertise. I know how to tune ignitions enough to make bikes work properly for me, but just because it's my setting doesn't mean it's your setting. And having the options of different maps and able to try them, when you can start, if you're going to start doing extensive modifications, having access to the ignition timing will complement the other modifications. Not being able to tune it is just one other thing that you can't work with, but it's also one more thing you can screw up. Hence, just get a can of spray paint and spray paint your ECU orange, and it will get 20% better, I think. Let's see. Todd Kelly, hey, I asked a couple of questions back on your hour and a half outpost. What? Todd? Hello? You could have called in. Then we could have got it directly. So I think we've kind of run through most of our questions. We've run for an hour now, huh, Gabe? Over an hour. Let's see. Did we answer all those questions? So if you have any questions, feel free to one more call. What? Somebody else called? Did you put their name on it? Oh, you haven't screened them, but a call came in. Get on the gas over there. So while Gabe handles the calls, so if you want to have us answer your questions on Dirt Bike Tests Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, feel free to put them in the comments down below on this particular one. Maybe when you see the video on YouTube, go ahead and comment down there. We usually farm through those, grab some of the best questions. Of course, now you can call in as usual. 8 out of 10 questions that you ask have been previously answered on some of the back episodes of Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. Feel free to look back over those. They're on YouTube, and they will be up on podcast versions soon, especially when we get some sponsors to sponsor the hotline. It could be Mojave Bob's hotline if you would just start handing over some cash and buying the tacos that we are eating here tonight. But before we go, Pete wants to talk about Electron carbs. That's Electron. That's Electron, Gabe, with an L. It's cool though. Yeah. Hey Pete, how you doing? Can we hear you?
Hey, sorry, I'm listening to. Yeah, can you hear me?
I hear you now, just fine.
Cool. Sorry, I'm watching the podcast at the same time. Yeah, I own a YZ250X. I've actually ever since I owned a KDX 200 right around the same time Gabe did on his channel. I've really enjoyed two strokes and kind of switched over. Anyway, I was calling to see if you had an opinion one way or another on the Electron carburetors for two strokes.
I absolutely do.
I live in Idaho. Oh yeah, sorry. Go
No. Go ahead. Tell us where you live and what you're doing with the bike. That'll help.
So no matter what two-stroke I've owned, I ride a pretty wide variety of conditions and a really wide variety of altitudes. So living in Idaho, one day you'll be riding down in like desert washes and stuff like that at maybe 2,000 feet elevation, holding it wide open, sand stuff, and then another day you'll be at like 8,000 feet in the mountains. And I've seen a lot of talk about them on YouTube through different channels. Like I think it's like Brother Kyleson with the Dirt Bike channel and stuff like that. And everybody's talking about them. So
what?
Curious,
so there's the Electron. There's Electron, and then there's another one. What's the other one called?
Right. There's like the H series, and I don't know if it's like the H and the HV. I don't really know.
Yeah. But. So I've tested them mostly on other people's bikes that they had them. And at one time at Dirt Rider, I did a test, and these go all the way back to, what was the name of there was a name of a carburetor. It's what the company's still around, but it's kind of the same idea. It's all controlled through the needle.
The Smart Carb, maybe, or something else.
Yeah, so the Smart Carb is one of them. So what I found is, for the most part, every bike I put that on or ridden them on, it really smoothed out the power. It didn't have the kind of the snap or the hit that would have been stock. They also seem like they compensated for altitude a lot better than a Mikuni or a Kian. But I could never get over the lack of kind of throttle response. And I used to think I really like smooth power, but I control it with my wrist. And so anytime I've gone to them, when I really want the bike to snap and be aggressive, I can't get that with Electron. And they, I've talked to the guys before, and they said, we can tune it or jet it to get it there, but that's not the way that they like to set them up for the regular guy. And I kind of understand that. Me personally, I'm not a fan, but I know a lot of people that just love them because they really seem to get, for guys that are a little sloppy with the wrist, get really good traction. A lot of times the fuel efficiency goes up.
Okay. It's interesting you address the snappiness, because I'm being a two-stroke guy, that's one of the things I love the most about two strokes is the throttle response.
Right.
And I'm on a YZ250X with a 38 millimeter Keihin Air Striker, and it's a great car. Just riding at the different elevations I do in the different temperatures and all.
Thank God it's not a Mikuni.
A little bit, especially to get it to rev out.
Yeah.
Sorry, what's that?
Thank God it's not a Mikuni, because then you'd be changing a jet every 2,000 feet. Yeah. So.
Easily, yeah. But the only thing with the I jet a little rich just because I don't want to burn it up at the lower elevations, but then, I have a lot of trouble getting it to rev out at higher elevations. And it's interesting you address that, because I've heard, two sides of the coin, which is one side, it adjusts for elevation perfectly, more power everywhere, smoother, better. And I have friends who own them who say that's what they do, and then on the other side I hear people say nope, it's too smooth.
Well, the thing is when if it's jetted perfectly, like if you have a perfectly jetted carburetor for the right elevation and you compare it to a Electron that's jetted the same, the Electron is going to be smoother and it's going to lack hit. Now you go up 2,000 feet, 4,000 feet, all of a sudden that Electron may actually have better snap, because it's actually jetted properly. But the funny thing is, how a bike that's not jetted very well kind of has extra snap, especially when they kind of get rich, and then they kind of have that bang, that's what people think snap is. So, but some of it, perfectly, when you ride a perfectly jetted two-stroke, there's a whole different level of snap. It's not what you're talking about. It's not that kind of bog go sort of sensation. So, there's a sense that, the Electron will have more snap at higher elevations or lower elevations, depending on where you're technically jetted for, but it's never going to be perfect. And hence that's why, I wish everything would go to fuel injection. I love.
Gotcha.
I love.
Oh, really? You do wish everything, even two-stroke.
I love the fuel inject. I love the fuel injected KTM's. I love them, the 2-strokes all day long. And
Interesting.
And
okay.
you know everybody says they're smooth. Just turn the throttle farther, and they're not smooth.
Hear that.
Yeah, no, you turn the throttle farther, and they are not smooth. I mean, and you can play with and adjust the power valve and get them just as snappy as you would ever need it. Yeah, I don't know why you sold that KDX 200.
I know. What's wrong with you, Peter?
I don't either.
Yeah. So, I have a KTM 200, so I'm partial to that engine size. But then, Gabe's sitting over here. He probably wants to kill me because I like all these KTM's. But he's gonna go make a video about how Jimmy's just a KTM guy tomorrow, and then I'll have the whole world will just attack.
That's something I can relate to him with, in that I have nothing against the brand at all. I think that they make, or the people that own them most of the time, and that I think they make, that's a poor caveat, but I think they make some great cutting edge bikes. I just think that for guys like me, it's just hard to justify that many extra $1,000 if you know how to jet. And quite frankly, at least for me, I feel like, 90%
I never want to open up another carburetor in my life. I said this about 4-stroke, at least a 2-stroke, at least it's halfway easy to get to the damn carburetor. But have you ever taken you have 250X? Well, try a 450. It's like 30% worse.
How can it even be worse?
You never ever want it. And then, you get gas on your hands and it's a mess. And if you have to do it 3 or 4 times in a day, you just want to shoot yourself. I'd rather just touch my phone. Like right here inside of this phone, I have the Yamaha Power Tuner app, and I can tune my YZ. I don't have a YZ right now, but if it was sitting right outside, I could tune it for while I'm sitting here talking to you. And I don't care to do it any other way anymore. So, yeah.
I'll say for me, it's good you made the differentiation there. For me, at least, I mean, I'm not saying I haven't owned or won't continue to own carbureted 4-stroke bikes, but on the 2-stroke, to me, it's not a big deal. On the 4-stroke, I'm actually rebuilding YZ 450F right now with it's for a friend, but yep, it's carbureted, and not a real fun time. So
good times. Hey, thanks for calling in, and hopefully we answered your question. And like I said, if you're doing the big elevation changes, I think that is kind of the smart way to go currently. If you don't want to change jetting.
Cool. Well, appreciate it, and thanks, and cool to see that you have Torture Test magazine on the channel over there, Gabe. That's pretty cool stuff he puts out. So.
Yeah, no, I enjoy it. I'm hoping that we can get him to work with us a little bit here at Dirt Bike Test, and I'll try to put him on some newer stuff, and I'll just make him change the oil and replace parts, replace parts as needed. But it is literally, it's hard to ride. I mean, especially on our side, it's hard. I put I don't even know how many hours on the CR450X that we had. It's like roughly 2,000, 3,000 miles, which is like in Gabe's world, he's saying, "Oh, that's nothing." But when you have 4 or 5 when you have 4 or 5 other bikes to ride all the time, you need to test them and put a time. It's like how do you do it? And in all honesty, you know what I'd really like to do is I would like to get you. You need to clone yourself though. I'd like to get him a second bike, the same bike, and one of them you just do the minimum maintenance. You do change, and at the end. Then when the one goes catastrophic, then you calculate out what it was going to cost to repair the one that you destroyed versus the maintenance you put into the one that you did, what a regular guy should probably do. And I'd be willing to wager that it would be cheaper to just maintain it a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely would.
Yeah. But I mean, it would be interesting.
But
to
it
see
would be interesting.
But how simple it is to do some of the really basic stuff. And then when you hear the clanking and hear the grinding, it's like, hey, it's
time.
It's time. Yeah. My before the rod comes out the bottom, let's the valves drop into the piston. Let's do a little. Then you don't have to buy all those extra big, expensive, heavy parts. So, hey, Pete, thanks for calling. Hopefully you continue to listen to us and tell a friend.
Yeah. Will do. I was going to say, I for one would love to see that on.
I was going to say,
cool.
if we get Peter, so Peter was our second rider at the 24.
Right.
He's basically me on a bike. Yep. But he actually maintains his stuff like perfectly well. He over maintains stuff. So I'm like, Peter and I just get the same bike and let's see what happens.
Yeah, just two versions of the same thing. So cool. Hey, thanks a lot. We'll keep in touch.
Definitely over maintained it. All right.
Nothing wrong with that. Okay, see you. Bye.
All right, bye.
Right on. Well, I think that's it. We've kind of gone through a full show here. Hopefully, you've learned something, become a little bit more educated. Where should people go to find you again, Gabe?
TortureTestMagazine.com.
Right, that's the best place. If you are interested in KDX 200s or what's the other one? That's
the DR200.
The DR200.
Smoking KTMs, KTM tiers.
Yeah. So. We will. I'll. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to dangle a new KTM in front of you and say, "Hey, you want to ride this?" Then I'll get pictures and I'll wreck you and your little thing. So, for Gabe and Gabe, my call screener producer, guy who put the pictures up on the back, and Mojave Bob, who one of these days we're going to point a camera at. This is Jimmy Lewis signing off for Dirt Bike Tests Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, and hopefully we will see you out on the trail. Cheers.